Turning now to our other big story, it was a clean sweep for Democrats in the elections. New York City's next mayor will be Zohran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist who won a decisive victory over former Governor Andrew Cuomo in a three-way race. In New Jersey, Democratic Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill was elected the state's next governor. And Virginia voters made history choosing Democrat Abigail Spanberger as their first female governor. CBS News exit polls found the policies of President Trump played a key role in those results. CBS News and Elections and Surveys Executive Director Anthony Salvanto is here with more on Mamdani's win, particularly who he coalesced and how he did it.
Yeah, it's clear the campaign was successful at targeting the kinds of voters that he needed to move or that he could move. Because I want to start with showing you first the map. This is New York City. The dark blue areas are areas that he won, neighborhoods that he won. And you can see it spans from the Bronx through most of Manhattan and then across a lot of Brooklyn and Queens, etc. Now, the thing that he had to do, number one, was move voters who hadn't voted for him in the primary. So I'm going to show you this. If I go to the primary, I'm going to turn the map there to these orange areas had voted for Cuomo in the primary, especially check out the Bronx right there, right? Now I'm going to show you the current vote, and you're going to see how that flips to blue. That's a sign of how he moved voters. The other thing I'll show you is, for example, look at the Hispanic vote. These are the areas in darker purple, a lot in the Bronx, some in Brooklyn, here in Queens, where you have a heavier concentration of Hispanic voters. Well, if you look again at where he won, he did well in those places. Also, voters who were in areas where the Democrats had lost ground to Donald Trump even in the 2024 election. So all of that adds up to how he was successful at getting some of those voters back. And I'll just show you this from the exit poll. Latino voters here voting for Mamdani, 52-39. I'll show you this. Black voters, 57-38. The other part of this is the Democratic coalition, the one that they sort of had some erosion with in 2024. These are pieces of it that he was successful at moving back into the D column.
Anthony Salvanto, I don't know how you're putting words together after no sleep. Not all heroes wear cape, folks. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
CBS News political director Finn Gómez is in Washington with more talking about heroes. So Finn, Mamdani ran on promises, big promises, freezing the rent, make buses free and faster, make childcare free, tax hikes on the wealthy. How powerful was that message, and what coalition did that energize?
It really was a powerful message. I do just got to say really quickly, Lindsay, that I think that Anthony Salvanto should wear a cape because he is a superhero. But Mamdani's campaign really tapped in directly into the economic anxieties, largely affordability. We kept hearing about that term throughout the cycle, really crucial to his campaign. But his promises to freeze rent, expand free bus services, offer free childcare, raise taxes on the wealthy, that really resonated, as you saw with what Anthony was just saying, with working class and other New Yorkers who really felt priced out of their own city. That message built a powerful coalition of renters, young progressive labor groups, and really lower income families, if you will, especially, as Anthony mentioned, in those outer borough communities. So that helped them mobilize a sort of multi-ethnic base that turned out in big numbers. But again, like the big issue was affordability. That's something really galvanized a lot of voters, not just in New York, but across those really three battlegrounds on the eastern seaboard of New Jersey, of Virginia. If you look at the Democratic wins there, that was really the key and crucial issue that really helped Democrats win in those races. Lindsay.
You know, it was interesting because in his victory speech, Mamdani spoke directly to Trump and said, "I have 4 words for you, turn the volume up." How is President Trump trying to frame Mamdani's win?
Yeah, and he really called him out there in that speech last night, in his victory speech at that rally. But, President Trump and Republican leaders are trying to cast Mamdani's victory as proof that Democrats have, quote, fully embraced socialism. That's something that was released by the political arm of House Republicans today, who are also unveiling a new ad campaign targeting what we call frontline congressional districts for ahead of the midterms a year from from now. So really, they're already trying to frame that, arguing that the quote, radical left now defines the Democratic Party, that suburban and middle America voters should see this as a, quote, warning sign heading into 2026. But Democrats that I spoke to counter the Mamdani's win really wasn't about ideology here. Again, it was about affordability and really a frustration with the status quo. And that's the competing narrative that really sets up this debate, or really an economic debate that Republicans are hoping to lean into next year for the midterms.
And interesting that Leader Jeffries over the weekend said he doesn't see Mamdani as the future face of the party. But we got to talk about New Jersey. Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill, Governor, what are your takeaways from there?
Really interesting race here, Lindsay. You know, Sherrill's path to the governor's mansion really ran straight through New Jersey's middle-class suburbs, really crucial demographic there in New Jersey, and also Latino communities that responded to her, again, affordability message. She campaigned on easing property taxes and making life more affordable for working-class families, issues that really can transcend party lines. But her task is now turning those campaign promises into results in Trenton, especially on housing and tax relief. But those exit polls that Anthony was talking about, they also showed the Latino voters backed her by a wide margin. And this was a notable big swing. You remember me yesterday talking about this, because in 2024, Donald Trump won emphatically with these same communities in these same areas, like Passaic County, for example, during the 2024 cycle. Lindsay.
Interesting. Vastly different campaigns with Democrats coming away with those wins. Vin Gómez, thank you. California voters have overwhelmingly passed Proposition 50, the measure Governor Gavin Newsom led to redraw the state's congressional maps. The move will add 5 districts likely in favor of Democrats ahead of the midterms next year. Newsom introduced the plan to counter redistricting in Texas, benefiting Republicans. Prop 50's passage is a big political win for Newsom as he considers a possible presidential run in 2028. President Trump is in Miami shortly after he blamed the government shutdown for Democrats' victories last night. In remarks today, he pressed Republican senators to abandon the filibuster. But Majority Leader John Thune says he doesn't have the votes to do that. President Trump says it's necessary to fund the government and pass any legislation.
It's time for Republicans to do what they have to do, and that's terminate the filibuster. It's the only way you can do it. And if you don't terminate the filibuster, you'll be in bad shape. We won't pass any legislation. There'll be no legislation passed for 3.25. We have 3.25 years, so that's a long time.
CBS News White House reporter Willie James Inman is in Miami for us. What are some other reaction that we're hearing from the White House to last night's results?
Hey there, Lindsay. Good to be with you. Well, we're getting that reaction in real time with the president giving remarks here amongst thousands of business leaders. He took the time to criticize his predecessors, including former President Barack Obama, former President Joe Biden, but also he essentially said that Democrats last night installed a communist as the mayor of New York, referring to Mamdani's victory last night, I should say, rather. And the president earlier in the day, when he was speaking to Republicans at that breakfast this morning at the White House, he said that he doesn't think that last night's victories for Democrats were good for Republicans. And then he went on to say that I'm not sure that it was good for anybody. Clearly, the president perhaps not pleased about these electoral victories for Democrats, but he did also mention that these are in Democratic areas, and previously on social media posting as well that essentially the reason why you saw these victories was in part because of the government shutdown, but also on top of that his name was not on the ballot. So the president reacting negatively, as expected, can be expected, with the leader of the Republican Party to these victories that we saw across the country last night, Lindsay.
Willie James Inman, thank you.